Do you want the truth?
Yeah.
I gamble. A lot.
Laura just learned another secret about Birkan, and this one hits even harder than the first. It turns out that getting kissed against a wall doesn't cancel out the growing list of baggage Birkan is finally admitting to. Instead of the red flags disappearing, they're multiplying. From day one, Laura has been very open about loving her smutty romance books, to the point where she wants to live in one.
I've even dabbled in writing them sometimes. And then his lips crashed against hers, hot, desperate, and consuming.
So when she met Birkan on Snapchat, she thought she finally found her real-life bad boy. That book character energy she'd been craving.
He's got dark hair, he's got a smoking hot tattoo. Straight off the pages of a romance novel.
So she traveled all the way to Turkey, smutty book in hand, hoping that this was the fantasy she had been waiting for. And for a brief moment, when she arrives, it actually looks like it might be. They meet, they kiss immediately.
A shiver ran down her spine as she melted into him, surrendering to the fire between them.
But almost just as fast, that passion fades into something else. Awkwardness. And that's when the fantasy already starts to crack.
It's like he doesn't know who I am, and I don't know who he is.
They get to their romantic Airbnb, take a walk, and Birkan starts throwing out these inspirational quotes.
Architecture is the art we live in.
I love that.
Yeah, I love
That's
that
like
phrase.
really profound.
Is this him flirting? Or motivational speaking?
When the darkness comes, the light shines out.
When they return, he's ready to watch TV. And you can see Laura's disappointment set in.
I feel like it's not this like super great magical moment.
This wasn't the steamy book moment she had imagined.
Pulse pounded, breath hitching as his dark eyes burned into hers.
Feeling unsatisfied, her attention drifts straight to the person she usually talks to, Michael. This is a guy that Laura has already described as her best friend, the one she does everything with.
Michael just has been blowing up my phone since I got here.
The same Michael she openly admitted she's been very, very close to.
Everyone who has seen Michael and me interact would assume that we are either dating or are married.
Laura did admit that she has feelings for Michael at one point, but she moved on when he said he didn't admit the same. But they stayed best friends anyways. So as best friends, Michael even offered to fly to Turkey if Laura ever needed him. And Birkan? He does not love how close Laura and Michael are. But for now, she's hoping that maybe they can figure that out. Suddenly, the guy she's not with is the one offering the comfort she needs, while the guy she is with in person feels distant. So at this point, Laura's fantasy has gotten complicated because neither guy is actually delivering it. One guy gives her a lot of attention but won't admit he has feelings. The other is physically there, but the chemistry isn't exactly lighting the room on fire.
Kind of concerning that I'm getting more attention from Michael than I am from the man that I flew halfway around the world to meet.
The next day, we find out that Laura had gone back to where Birkan was watching TV, and they made out. But he put the brakes on them actually sleeping together. So they're now a little bit closer, but she still wants that kind of passion her romance novels promise. Then the trip takes a turn that absolutely no one had on their bingo card. Laura brings Birkan with her to a skin removal consultation she had already scheduled. So she's lost a significant amount of weight and wants to boost her confidence.
I've lost 140 pounds in about 14 months.
Understandable, but bringing a man you just met to this appointment, that's a bold first date choice.
Even though we made out last night, I am still feeling insecure about how he actually perceives me physically.
Birkan ends up being totally supportive and completely unbothered by this, but Laura admits that she feels really uncomfortable during the consultation. It's very vulnerable and personal. But when they get back to the Airbnb, she says that Birkan actually made her feel confident in her body.
He definitely showed me that he's physically attracted to me multiple times.
So even when the fantasy isn't quite working out, there's still enough going on to keep her from walking away. Laura does admit that Birkan is a little vanilla, but spending the night together smooths over some of that awkwardness, at least for a moment. Because this is when Birkan decides, yes, it's time to share a secret. While explaining his living situation, he casually mentions that he doesn't have a job and that he's carrying debt.
I think 50K.
US dollars, not Turkish lira.
That's a lot of money.
And this is the first time that Laura sees a real red flag, especially when Birkan explains his plan. Leave the country and just ignore it. And that's when the fantasy really starts to feel like it's crashing down. Laura admits that it makes her wonder whether Birkan is looking at her less like a partner and more like an exit strategy. But Birkan explains himself.
If I was someone like that, I would have lied. I would have never told you about my debt.
And it works. That smirk, oh, she's back in. Laura tries to express her shock, her frustration, her very reasonable concern, but Birkan knows exactly how to distract her. A kiss, pinned against the wall, fantasy fully reactivated, and it works.
Having a hot Turkish guy push you up against the wall and make out with you?
And the longer they spend time together, the clearer it starts to become. The debt was just the beginning of the red flags. As Birkan starts talking about his family, he admits that he's not especially close with them. He says his friends are his real family. That's when Laura brings up Michael, her best friend. The person she's already explained plays a big role in her life.
Michael, I want you to cut him out of your life.
And Laura clearly doesn't love that response. But it does raise an interesting question, because isn't this kind of what she wanted? The bad boy energy, the possessiveness, the I want you all to myself attitude, straight out of those books she loves? The problem is it sounds a lot better in the book than it does out in reality.
And he's not trying to make me cut you out.
He can't. This is a relationship.
Birkan doesn't like that Laura doesn't instantly agree with him, and he walks out. From Laura's perspective, this is a mistake, because after just admitting he's carrying massive debt, this wasn't the moment to start telling her who she can and can't be friends with.
You just get to determine who's important in our lives, in our lives.
Okay. I don't want to talk about this discussion anymore, so...
Okay.
Things get even more uncomfortable when they go straight from that argument to meeting Birkan's friends. They haven't resolved the Michael situation at all, but now they're sitting together at a hookah bar trying to act normal. Birkan's friends are nice, but the realization that he comes to the hookah bar every day is not.
He has a regular table, and now I'm hearing that he comes here literally to smoke shisha every day.
This is actually the first time we hear about Birkan gambling. It comes up while he's with his friends. And Laura clearly doesn't understand what's being said. That's when we learn that the gambling isn't a side thing for Birkan. It's how he makes money in place of a job.
I gamble every day. Every opportunity I have. It's what I do for a living.
But Birkan doesn't explain any of this to Laura right away. Instead, he waits until they go on a romantic getaway together, which feels like an interesting choice of timing. At first, it seems logical to assume his massive debt is connected to the gambling. I mean, come on. But Birkan explains that the debt came from something else.
I had my first shisha bar, but when the COVID hits, I bankrupt.
He says he tried to work afterwards, but it just wasn't enough to survive. So he found another way.
I gamble. A lot. It could be every day.
Birkan insists the gambling has nothing to do with the debt. Which, I mean, how could it not be? But okay. Gambling is unpredictable. You don't win every single time. Laura has already cycled through a lot during this trip. First, she worries that Birkan might want her money because of the debt, then worries about his possessiveness, and now she finds out that the money she sends him is actually being gambled.
I sent you money.
Yeah.
Did you gamble that?
Yeah.
At this point, the fantasy isn't falling apart, like it's in shambles. Birkan frames the gambling as a necessity, something he has to do.
So if you
Gambling is something I have to do.
It seems irresponsible to me.
Producers actually ask if it's an addiction. He says no, but then adds that he plans to keep gambling when he's in the US. And this is where Laura ends up at the crossroads she's been slowly walking towards. Because every time reality shows up, she hesitates. But then every time the fantasy reappears, she leans back into it. She's going to have to decide which road she's taking.
Are we going to have more debt, more financial problems because you can't stop gambling?
If I hit a grand jackpot, I won. You know, I have money. See, I succeeded.
She didn't come to Turkey looking for someone to fix. She came looking for a feeling, excitement, intensity, romance. But reality keeps interrupting that. There's debt she didn't know about, control she didn't ask for, and now a lifestyle built on risk.
This is really serious, and I feel like I should just pull the plug and go home now.
Laura keeps choosing the fantasy version of Birkan over the reality standing right in front of her. Wanting a bad boy is one thing, but living with the consequences of one is something else entirely. So is this it for Laura? Which road will she take? Will she walk away? Will she not walk away? Let me know. Leave a comment below and let me know. Make sure to follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. And also, this is my QR code to my Snapchat. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye!